and welcome to Love, Light, and Healing with Colette Lopane Capella. I am Colette Lopane Capella, a licensed mental health counselor, Reiki practitioner, EMDR therapist, and healer. I am founder and director of New Day Vitality, located in Larchmont, New York, where we provide a holistic, alternative approach to psychotherapy and counseling. We offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy, as well as Reiki energy healing and EMDR therapy. I'm excited to have this opportunity to bring this show to the public and the beautiful community of Larchmont and Mamaroneck. A little bit about me: I'm a wife, a fur mommy, an entrepreneur, and a true healer at heart. I've been practicing for many years and have had the profound honor of being a part of so many beautiful journeys to wellness and helping individuals live and be the best versions of themselves, mind, body, and spirit. This show is to bring together the mind, body, and spirit through love and light, wellness, and healing. This show will be informative, helpful, and fun, so sit back, relax, and enjoy all the beauty this show will offer you. Each episode, we will bring on an expert guest to discuss important different topics that bridge the mind, body, and spirit, and the beauty of when it's all tied in together. Experts will vary from energy healers, teachers, nurses, crystal healers, psychiatrists, doctors, therapists, psychologists, psychics, mediums, yogis, and all healers, or light workers, as I like to call us. On today's episode, very excited, we have a dear friend of mine for our second episode together here, Narcisa Sierra, licensed mental health counselor and trauma therapist.
Hello.
Welcome again.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. So we were actually on the last episode together, which you can kind of go back and play, but I'm really excited to have you on again today because so many amazing questions to ask you and to talk about, so I'm happy you're here again.
Thank you so much.
And I'm really excited to have you part of this opportunity to our beautiful audience and our viewers.
Oh, thank you.
So just in case anyone missed the last episode, can you tell the audience again a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, all that great stuff?
Okay, I'm a psychotherapist in private practice. My practice is in Tarrytown, and it's called Footsteps to Wellness. And I work with individuals on a wide range of concerns, trauma, depression, anxiety, and basically any kind of life transition.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess we're going to just jump right in. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can
Again?
jump. Yeah.
You jump in with me, good.
All right, let's go.
We'll just jump in. So I think a lot of, in this episode, what I want to talk about with you is self-love. And that's a big one, and I know you feel very strongly about it like I do.
Yes.
And so perfect person to talk about with this. So how would you define self-love?
Well, first of all, can I say, I am super passionate about this topic of self-love.
Yes.
It just,
I know.
it's just so important. So I define self-love as it's a healthy appreciation for oneself. It's the practice of honoring yourself, mind, body, and spirit. I think it encompasses a respect and a reverence that you have for yourself as you are. Yeah.
As you are.
As you are.
Well, that's the key statement there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Self-love,
Yeah.
as you are. And why is self-love so important? Why is self-love essential?
Well, I think it's the foundation of the other areas of your life. Having a healthy view and appreciation of oneself, it will spill out over into the rest of your life. And if that is off, then the rest of your life, it doesn't flow the way that you want it to usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I think when you say that, what I think of is that, we deserve the same love that we give everyone else, and then we also set the expectation of the love that we deserve by practicing our self-love.
Yes, absolutely. And I like that you say practice, right? Because it's not like, oh, I've got it and I'm done.
Oh, no.
No.
It's a work in progress
Yes.
every single day. And I think it transitions and changes depending on where you are in your life and what's going on.
Yes.
And it's just so essential throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that, as you said, as you evolve as a person, it changes. And it's essentially like the relationship that you have with yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of issues arise when we have difficulty with self-love?
Well, that can look things such as self-esteem issues, It can look like having poor boundaries, overcommitting yourself. And a lot of times what happens also is if there's an underlying self-love issue or issues with worthiness, then you're also looking at depression and anxiety.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree. I think it's all related.
Yes.
It's funny because like I feel like there's certain concepts that somehow are all related, right? And I feel like self-love is one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, right? Like if you're experiencing anxiety, somehow self-love's connected.
Yeah.
Depression, connected. Eating disorders, connected.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely, because it's about you honoring you, and you're not honoring yourself in that way. Yeah.
I'm going to actually switch this a little bit and ask you a question, but you're fine with this.
Okay.
And honoring you, I'm thinking of the self-love and the trip that we took.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that really like crystallizes self-love in so many ways, that experience that we had.
Yes. Yes. So our trip to Sedona. Yes.
It was amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Such an amazing experience. And it was a positive psychology retreat for mental health professionals. But what was beautiful is that they allowed us so much time to reflect and to just be. And I don't know about you, but I had this experience where I was able just to sit and be with myself.
Yep.
And I gained so much clarity and perspective.
Yep.
Sitting in my own skin in the middle of the desert, which sounds scary, but it's not, you know?
Well, we had each other. But I think that's the essence of self-love, right?
Yeah.
Like you were able to sit with yourself internally and just be.
Yes, absolutely.
That's huge.
And connect with other individuals who had a similar mindset, which that was very, very powerful as well. But they gave you that opportunity to kind of connect. And I remember saying like, well, what kind of a place are we going to? Like, is this rehab? Or?
Well, because it was kind of like classified too as like a spiritual retreat.
Yes.
And then you read like the description, remember? And I was like afraid about a lot of the things that were on
Yes. Things you couldn't bring. Yes, yeah.
things you couldn't do. But it was really amazing because I think the biggest part that we took out of this, both of us, was that we were really able to have that time that was dedicated to us individually and honoring our needs and our wants and just listening to our bodies.
Yes.
And where it was going to take us. And it was just so profound and beautiful to be in that beautiful space and together.
Absolutely.
And to kind of go through that experience.
Yeah, and in a space where there were no expectations other than that you show up. And I think that's really what self-love is, right? You're showing up for yourself and in a way that nobody else has the power to.
Oh,
Yeah.
you put it perfectly. Perfectly.
Yeah.
So why is it so important for us to honor our needs and understand ourselves? Like that experience kind of gave us a bigger insight, a bigger reflective tool than we even knew was coming. But why is it so important to honor our needs and to understand ourselves and our wants and what we're comfortable with?
Well, I think self-awareness is really important, right? Because if you are operating without self-awareness, then the world is kind of just, things are happening to you rather than you being an active participant.
Very true.
So which leads to like, I mean, you can have, let's say, an anxiety attack that comes out of nowhere, but you're not sure where it came from. Like there's some issue under there, but when you're self-aware, you can be like, oh, okay, I know what was going on there.
Yep.
So it's important to honor your needs, to know what's okay, what's not okay, what drives your emotions, your feelings, so that you're not operating on autopilot, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Well, you're living.
Yes.
Living in the moment. I think that connects directly to mindfulness too, right? I remember I said self-love is connected. I think that's even connected to mindfulness, that essence of being in the moment, being with your thoughts, being with your feelings, doing a body scan, like where you feel, all of that great stuff.
Which we don't, like I think as a society practice. It's kind of like go, check Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's so unfortunate because we get caught up. It's like that cycle, right? And you step on that wheel, right? I think of like the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get off. But practicing self-love is the essence of you're stepping off and you're being.
Yeah, and then asking yourself, like, okay, what do I need? Like, what's going to nourish me, mind, body, spirit? And that may change over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing our experience, by the way.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And how are relationships affected when we don't honor our needs or practice self-love? How are more specifically, relationships affected by this when we're not honoring our self-love?
Well, that can look like maybe not honoring our needs within our relationships, and maybe having difficulties articulating what we need, what's okay, what's not okay. And it can also be a reflection of our consciousness. Like if you don't feel good about you, then a lot of times you're attracting a partner who is not going to value you in that way.
Exactly.
That you should be valued.
I agree. I think that's very true. And can you discuss the relationship between self-love and the relationships, well, you kind of answered it, that we accept?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of, it's important, because if your consciousness, as I said, it's a reflection of your consciousness. So if you don't feel good about yourself, then you're going to accept a relationship and think that this is only what you can get. You're only worthy. What I deserve. This is the relationship that I'm worthy of. I'm not worthy, therefore I accept this relationship.
Yep, I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how, so you're like kind of setting the standard?
Well, yeah, essentially, right, for how people are going to treat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And how do boundaries relate to the practice of self-love? Again, last episode we talked a lot about boundaries and healthy boundaries. And even right now what we're talking about, relationships, but how do they specifically relate to self-love?
Well, I think when we have difficulties with self-love, we have a hard time with boundaries. Boundaries with others and boundaries within ourselves, right? And like boundaries, as I define, like a line in the sand, what's okay and what's not okay. But I think when it comes to boundaries within ourselves, we can also overindulge. That can be with food, alcohol, shopping, whatever the case is. Because essentially sometimes we're trying to fill this void and fill it with outside things rather than turning inside and building from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's...
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just for our intimate relationships, I mean, that can also turn into boundary issues, like engaging in people-pleasing behaviors, worrying that other people will be mad at you, and then your behavior is dictated on trying to avoid some uncomfortable emotion rather than really being present in the relationship and having a reciprocal relationship.
Yes, exactly. It's funny, when you said that, I was thinking of like the concept of the Buddha, right? And so like he has the big belly because what was happening was he was feeding and trying to fix something inside there by indulging on the food or whatever it was, but yet it wasn't helping.
Yeah.
And I think that was a perfect example the way you said it, because sometimes it's like this this indulging in these behaviors to like fit something inside that might feel empty or not full, but yet it's kind of different. It's bigger than that. There's more to it.
Yeah, it's filling the void, right?
Yes.
But you don't ever get full.
Oh, forget it. Well, because I think of like that hamster wheel again idea. It's like once you fill that void, guess what? You run into the next void, the next one, and so you're right, society kind of formulates this concept that it's like we're always running to fix or to fill that next little spot inside of us, when we can just take a step back, and that's part of self-love, practice mindfulness and acknowledge like, I did do this, right? Or I'm proud of this, or I deserve this.
Right, right. Because those things like the food, the eating, it's not fulfilling. It's not. But there's something fulfilling about when you're able to step into a relationship with yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're perfect and you've got it all figured out, but that you have a healthy appreciation for you as you are.
Yes.
There's something fulfilling in being able to just sit and be in that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I say flaws and all, because like we're all flawed. Nobody's perfect. I had a client say to me once, she said, "You're so perfect." You do. Oh, no, sweetheart. No, I am far from perfect. Everybody's far from perfect. There's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah.
So when you're acknowledging your self-love and you're respecting yourself and the divine beauty of you, it's like, well, you're also like accepting the flaws and kind of the hiccups and saying like, it's part of who I am and I'm owning it.
I like that, the hiccups.
The hiccups. Yes,
I like that.
We all got hiccups.
Yes.
It's part of all of us, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but we have a path to kind of embrace it, or a path to fight it or hide it or put on this persona of someone we're not. So sometimes just that sense of embracing is practicing that self-love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, I've come victim to this myself, like, has to be put together, everything has to be like A-okay, and that's creating like unrest within. That's what that creates. So
you're not comfortable.
No.
Not grounded.
Not grounded.
Centered. No. It's funny, I always give this example to my clients when we're talking about authenticity, right? And the one woman who said that to me once before, she's like, "Oh, you're perfect. You got it all together." No. Right, but thanks. No. But I think of authenticity, and I say, when I first started my practice, right, I had this idea of what a female therapist should look like. Or what their office should look like. So I came in every day in like the suit and the jacket and the high heels. Can you believe that? Me.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So I get it, yeah.
And I remember always feeling like I'm
Yeah.
not authentic in this space right now. I always felt a little bit not centered
Yeah.
or grounded. And as soon as I started to switch the wheels and I was like, yep, just gonna kind of dress how I'm comfortable and present, who I am, clients would thrive even more because it was like the reflection of how comfortable they could be in the space with us versus, letting down the flaws and all, right? It's like for myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Owning it.
Yeah, you are one of the most authentic people that I know. You are, yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
I did kind of put it all out there. I think some people get offended by it, but it is what it is.
No, because then it gives permission for other people to be who they are as well.
And that's like, I feel like that's so serene, right? I mean, it's like so like, it's not tangible in a lot of ways because society tells you like, you gotta be like this and this.
Yeah.
And when you just kind of put it all out there, somebody's like, wow, she's doing it, I can do it
Right.
too. And I encourage that.
Yes, yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, be you. Like,
However that you is. That's what makes it special. Okay, let me go back to this. I went off a lot. How do you know what your boundaries are?
Okay.
And how do you enforce them? So I'm thinking of your line again, but how do you,
Well, checking in with yourself, what's okay and what's not okay. And I think we had touched on this in the other episode, figuring out what you don't like, right? And then going from there, the opposite of that. But also checking within your body, right? Like you might have a hard time knowing what your boundaries are, but if you feel tense and uncomfortable when certain things are happening, take a moment to pay attention and just to take a step back. Starting from there and figuring out like where your boundaries are weak. And sometimes it takes talking to someone else and figuring that part out, but checking in with your energy level is a really good way also to see where your boundaries are.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, because I always think, especially with people, right? If you're spending time with people who make you feel invigorated and alive, then there's probably not many boundary issues. But if you feel drained and depleted, then there's something happening there with the boundaries. Yeah.
I often use like the example of like empaths and energy vampires, right?
Yes.
And so I think that a lot of us are empaths. That we're just not in tune with it. We are empathic.
Right.
And a lot of my clients are empaths, which I've noticed over time. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I consider myself an empath, but I think of energy vampires, right? It's like this concept of if you're with someone and for whatever reason you feel drained or tired or gasping to breathe around them or just mentally and physically exhausted, you're right.
Yeah.
Something's not fitting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Something's not sitting right.
Yeah, I'm totally in line with that. I consider myself an empath as well.
You are.
Yeah.
That's why we get along.
Yeah, that's
You are.
why. Yeah. So, and I think especially people who are in the helping professions, right? And then you have to be really mindful of your energy if you take on the energy of others. But yes, if you feel depleted or if you have situations that keep repeating, like let's say you have a friend that maybe they continue to go on and on and on, and then they don't ask you about you. Like that's also a boundary issue.
That's a highlight.
Yeah,
I think it's like a light bulb moment where you might say, okay, something's not fitting.
Yes.
Okay. I have to ask you this. So, with being the empath that you are and being in this field, how do you even protect your boundaries in a lot of ways? And I'm not even talking about with clients. I'm talking about in your personal life.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes the assumption is like, she's a therapist, right? And the friend who calls and tells you their entire life and for hours and hours, whatever, I'm thinking it. How do you kind of protect your energy or your boundaries in that kind of setup? Because I think a lot of times that's the assumption.
Yeah, absolutely. And this took a lot of work for me to be able to do that because I also felt this responsibility.
Yes.
And it is so part of my identity as a healer, as a helper.
Yes.
So it took a lot of work to realize like what was driving that behavior. But being really clear on what I need. And my friends, like, they already know, like, okay, and they call it, like, Narcisa time. Like, I make sure that I leave adequate time for myself. So maybe in the morning, I'm really huge on self-care, so I have to get grounded and centered every single day before I start and enter the world. And just making sure, like, okay, if I'm going to spend time at someone's house and to leave time so that I have time to unwind, just managing my time and making, sure that I know, okay, I know what this dynamic is going to be, what's going to recharge me afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see, and I think it's perfect because you practice what you preach, right? So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
try to.
you come into this space, I mean, and that's very vulnerable to say, like, I need to practice this too, right? Some people might be
Yes.
kind of uncomfortable with saying something like that because the assumption is like, well, as helpers in this field, you got it all together. No,
Yeah,
like we're
no.
always working, we're always in progress.
Yeah.
And so like protecting your energy, eliciting your boundaries, so that I'm sure even when you're in session with your clients, how beneficial that is to them.
Yeah, and it's harder in your personal life, I think.
Yes,
You know,
it is.
It is.
I saw, I think I might have texted it to you, but I don't know. One of those GIFs, is that what it's called? Mimi? Oh,
GIF?
I'm not very technical. GIF, is that what it's called? One of those
I call it a GIF.
GIF?
I think.
GIF. I think
Okay.
that's what it calls it. It was on one of the therapist websites or something, and it said something like, maybe I didn't text you. I gotta send you this one. I've been at work all day, and I get out, and a friend calls me and says, "So what happened was," or something like that. And then they show the therapist's face, and she's like, "No, right?" But it was kind of comical. I mean, it is comical. It makes you giggle, but it is that concept of this idea that, okay, because you help, you gotta help me, and then you feel that need to help, and so I think the fact that you have these concrete boundaries and these practices that are for you, are what even everything out.
Yes, and I make sure to still be there for the people in my life, you know, but in a way that is, I make sure that I'm nourished first.
Yep.
I mean, that's how it kind of has to be so that I can help other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think part of that too is like taking off the therapist hat and just being a friend. Right?
Yes.
You don't have to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Big.
Yeah. You don't have to
got
fix.
this. You're good. So this is a good question, and so we went around this a little bit, but how does not having good boundaries impact us? And I kind of asked you that more individually,
Yeah.
but if you don't have good boundaries, like you said, how does that affect people?
Well, I mean, it can lead to negative emotions, feeling resentful, frustrated, anxiety, depression, just a sense of feeling off and depleted.
Yep.
And I think it can also leave one feeling as if they're a victim in the world, like, oh, these things are happening to me. Yeah.
Maybe even feeling resentful or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's kind of those lower frequency emotions. Yeah.
I think you're right. How does honoring our feelings relate to self-love?
Well, I think it's important to honor our feelings, all of them, all the good, the bad, and embracing them. I think that a lot of times we try to push away feelings that are uncomfortable, and they have their place. My clients always laugh because I'm a big fan of, I say like, oh, okay, like what are we doing with that feeling? And we're tying it up, putting it in a box, and you throw it over there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, you know.
That's really funny. I do that.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not kidding. I have a box in my office, and I call it the containment box. And I have people write it on a piece of paper, and we put it in the box and tie it back up and leave it there.
Look at that. Oh.
Of course, I have the same kind
Well,
of thing.
yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense. But it's true. It's really helpful, right? Separating
Separating it, but I'm also a big fan of, okay, we got to get to the box eventually, because if we don't
gotta go back to it.
Yeah, because if we don't deal with those feelings, then they're going to come back in inappropriate ways, which that might be being kind of snarky with your partner, short-tempered, like, you know, just those ways that you're not consciously aware.
Yes.
Because you haven't dealt with the
Layers.
uncomfortable. Yes.
Deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah. So sometimes we can have a hard time sitting with uncomfortable feelings or self-criticism. What advice would you give on dealing with difficult thoughts and feelings? The bad stuff.
The bad
Kind of
stuff.
what you said right now, but to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I really believe in kind of getting curious about it, and instead of like, okay, there's one way to push it away, right? But then there's, which sounds counterintuitive, let's bring it forward. Like, let's embrace it. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
Like, if like someone has a thought like, I'm not good enough. All right, well, let's take a look at that thought. Like,
The negative cognition.
yeah, like let's take a look at it, because then it's not going to last as much, right? If you try to push it away, it's going to come back, right? But inviting it into the room and not judging it, because a lot of times what I hear in my work, my clients say, what type of person thinks these things? What is wrong with me? And those are disempowering questions. When we ask questions like that, you get an answer. Well, this is wrong with you. So instead, getting curious about it and just taking a step back, like, I wonder where this is coming from.
Yeah.
That's like my main approach when it comes to difficult thoughts and emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and looking at it through that lens versus that lens where it's like very blameful, like, right? It's like blaming yourself.
Yes.
It's so different. I mean, how we go down this different route so quickly.
Yeah, and most people have this issue, and most people have like this negative commentary that runs, and it's just not getting engaged with it. There's a book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, which is really great. And he talks about this consciousness part of you as like this annoying roommate that just really has nothing good to say and is just constantly chatter, 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 chatter. So trying to look at it in those lens, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And kind of, I think that's awesome, like literally like putting it on display, right?
Yes.
And then embracing it and then working through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, inviting it in.
Inviting it.
Yeah.
I love that. Invite it in. So we're getting a little close to time, but I asked you this in the last episode, and I am going to ask you again.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you want to have the same response or different, whatever you want. But my loaded end question is, if you had one piece of advice, I'm going to switch this a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Not for this generation, but maybe for viewers or family members of individuals going in our field, right? Therapists, the helping field. What kind of switched it up a little bit,
You
right?
sure did.
But I know you got this. That's
Okay,
fine.
all right.
What kind of advice would you give them going into this field? After everything we just talked about, the self-love and the boundaries, I think it's all related.
Yeah, take the time to get to know yourself, right? And know what your needs are, and being okay with whatever those needs are. And first of all, knowing you don't have to save the world, right?
Yes.
Like, you don't. Like, just,
I knew you'd have a good answer.
yeah.
You're right. I mean, I think that's the best advice, right? It's like when you're
Yeah.
going into this, you got this, like, you get your running shoes on and you're
Put your little cape on, you know.
ready to save the world.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah.
Can't save the world.
No. Help yourself and focus on nourishing your needs, and then you'll be able to nourish the needs of others.
Perfect. That's the best. I want to thank you so much for being a part of the second episode now. This was really fun and really informative, and I think the audience learned a lot about self-love and the boundaries and how we have to honor ourselves, and really beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I'm grateful and honored. And thank you to our beautiful audience. We're privileged to have you a part of our show today. It's really an honor to be able to present this to the community and to have you on again today. Thanks. And so my famous line, until next time, now we got it right?
Hopefully.
Until next time, love, light, and healing.
Healing.
And namaste. Thank you.